Hello, and welcome to Kevin's Corner TV. My name is Kevin Horton, and I'm the editor of the Gold Coast Gazette, a weekly newspaper established in 1991 along with my mother. The newspaper covers the North Shore of Long Island, and over the years I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people. Through this show, I hope to introduce you to some of those people. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, and welcome to this week's Kevin's Corner TV. I'm speaking with Michelle and Marilyn Martone about their new book and their life together. So bring us back first to Michelle's accident and when it was.
Okay. In 1998, February 22nd, my husband and I received a phone call from the trauma room doctor at Cook County Hospital in Chicago, informing us that our daughter Michelle, who was a senior at the University of Chicago at the time, had been hit by a car. They were rushing her in for brain surgery, and she was on a ventilator. At the time, I was a professor of healthcare ethics at St. John's University, so I was quite aware of the severity of the injury and what might lie ahead for us. And it's been a long, long journey. That was in 1998. Michelle spent close to 2 years in institutions and hospitals, rehabilitation facilities. She was unconscious for close to 8 months. She was tube fed for 2.5 years. We were basically told that she would never wake up, never make any progress, and that we should think of putting her into a nursing home. We didn't, and as you can see, we've had remarkable progress since then.
Now, what do you attribute the progress to, and the fact that it's not what happened?
Basically, if I had one piece of advice to give everyone, it's the importance of advocacy. And when you have a loved one in a hospital or a rehab institute, be there constantly, fight, be faithful to them.
Right. This was her painting prior to the accident, right?
Yeah.
And now she's continued with the painting.
Yes, she has an art therapist.
We have some over here.
And
Which
when she first started doing art after her accident, she couldn't do more than draw a little circle.
Oh, wow.
So she's come a long way.
Now she's using the computer over here.
Yeah, she loves.
I can't.
So we brought her home. About the first year that she was home, she stayed in a little room in the front of the house, and then we built this little addition to the house. This used to be a window here. We took the window out, and we basically made it into a little area. This is her therapy area. She has her computer. This is a pull-down mat, so she does therapies on the mat when we pull it down, her walker. And then we also added this bedroom with lots of windows. The reason for that is when she first came home, she couldn't talk, she couldn't move, she was tube fed, and I wasn't sure she'd ever get out of bed. And so we put lots of windows in, so at least she'd be able to lie there and look at the trees and the outdoors. But needless to say, she's hardly ever in bed anymore.
Now, with the doctors telling you that she would never walk again, what made you go and make her walk?
Well, because basically when I hired a therapist, when we brought her home and we hired a therapist, I basically said, the only thing I ask from you is don't box her in. Let's see what she can do. And we
so
just
she
kept
did
working.
it. She was the one who...
And the reason also, Kevin, we're able to do as much as we do is because at this point everything is self-pay. Insurance doesn't pay for anything.
Right.
And the reason we can do that is because it was a major lawsuit. Otherwise, you'd never be able to do this without the resources to do it. Because, as I said, insurance stopped a long, long time ago.
Yeah, once they decided that it was over.
Right.
The best they could do, supposedly.
Yeah, it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. They say all your progress is going to be the first 6 months. And then if you don't make the progress, they say, well, further treatment is futile. So they cut off the treatment, and these individuals receive no more treatment. So in a way, I view Michelle as a test case, okay? This is what can happen. And I'm not saying it can happen in every case, but it can happen. We've proven that it can happen. So let's see, let's get some studies going. Let's get some research going. Granted, it would take a lot of resources, and in this day and age, there are not that many resources available, but at least call it what it is. It's a distribution.
Now, walking, she does some walking?
She walks with a walker,
Okay.
with the assistance of someone else, right? So it's easier to sit in a wheelchair, but we make her get up and walk. We use a belt because it helps us keep her safe. A big issue for her is balance. Usually when she's walking, she has her sneakers and brakes on to help her. So this is a little bit more difficult. Go with that. Focus. All right.
You know from where I stand, it looks to me like you use a friend. Bring me your tears, baby, I'm strong. I'll hold you until they're gone.
Take one more step forward.
Use my shoulder to
Wow. Good progress, though. Amazing progress.
Our motto, what's our motto? Tell them what our motto is.
Use it or lose
Use it or lose it. So, I mean, basically the nurses have a chart, the aides who come here have a chart. She has to walk them.
Do you remember any of the accident or no? Do you remember the
I
rehab
really
after?
feel like God has paid me by taking my memory away.
So you don't remember the bad things? And this is one, Michelle, would you agree? This is one of Michelle's major deficits still, short-term memory. She has a difficult time remembering things.
Okay. But as far as your physical ability, it's gotten a lot better than what the doctors said.
I hope.
Absolutely.
Now, they thought that she wouldn't be able to move at all.
Well, first of all, they told us she would die. Then they told us she would never wake up. And then they told us she would never make any progress and be bedbound her whole life. But needless to say, we just consistently gave her therapy. And therapy does work.
Mm-hmm.
We, to this day, 13 years later, she still has about 5 hours of therapy a day. So she's quite active.
Now you have said that she's a different girl than before.
Well, yes and no. I mean, definitely there are deficits that are the result of the accident. I think her sense of humor is still there. Her personality is still there. Her quick-wittedness is still there. But as I said, I can't imagine what it's like to have difficulty with memory and not being able to integrate, your past with your present and the future. She has
I have
reminders.
no explanation.
And you have no explanation. She has things to help her. Her watch is constantly on her arm, and that orients her to the day and the time. Right? So, and she knows a lot intellectually, but sometimes I'm not sure it connects emotionally.
Now, you were in the healthcare before all this happened.
I taught healthcare ethics. That was my specialty at St. John's University.
So that was a difficult thing for you to be in the ethics of healthcare and then be going through it at the same time.
Right.
Well, how did that clash?
Well, it's not so much a clash as it was really merging my professional and personal lives. So, for instance, I was in the classroom teaching about the ethical issues surrounding artificial nutrition and hydration, and then coming home and doing artificial nutrition and hydration on my daughter. I was also aware of some of the things that might lie ahead. For instance, she was in a facility in New Jersey, and I knew in New Jersey, should the issue of withdrawing nutrition and hydration come up, as her guardian, I would be able to make that decision. If we brought her back to New York, I knew I had no clear and convincing evidence, which is what you need in New York, to do that make that decision for her. And so there were many issues that I had to deal with. I think probably the most difficult ethical issue I struggled with, and it's something that I never found in any of the textbooks, was I knew that should she die, she would be a perfect transplant donor. And I also knew she would want to give her organs. She donated blood about 6 times a year. But I also knew, as her mother, should she die, I would want to hold her in my arms with no tubes attached. Now, do I do what I need to stay psychologically whole and deny other people life? Or do I sacrifice that so that other people can live by receiving her organs? And fortunately, I never had to make that decision, but it was a very, very difficult decision. And I raise that issue because so often when we talk about organ donation, we almost make it sound like a commodity, that we just go take the organs and now someone can live, without recognizing sometimes the turmoil that the families who are donating these organs go on this. She was in a facility in New Jersey for a year, and every day a family member was with her. Her brothers each of them took one day every week, and I went 3 days, and my husband went 1 day, so she was never alone.
Wow.
But we did it as a family, we did it as a team, and even now, it was really other people's prayers that got me through. I had difficulty praying myself because I was so busy taking care of her, but I could feel the support of the other people. And so I came to realize how important it is that someone who is sick or suffering or dying is not forgotten, and realizes that there's somebody there who is thinking about them, even if it's only like for an hour a week, that there is somebody who is naming them by name and praying for them and thinking about
I mean, you guys went to church on Sunday, but it wasn't
Right.
as strong.
L's in my, the first 2 letter L's of the word lucky lady.
She considers herself a lucky lady
And for living.
and every day when she gets up, she thanks God she's alive.
Right.
Yeah. But she still, Michelle, am I correct? If you had a choice of living the life that you live now with your frustrations, you still would rather have that life than not have life.
You're absolutely 100% correct.
Right. And we're certainly happy to have you here.
Well, I'm certainly happy to be had.
Tell me about the book. It's called Over the Waterfall.
Okay.
And you self-published this, right?
I did.
And for what reason?
Okay. First, well, this book called Over the Waterfall, and I called it Over the Waterfall. Over the Waterfall is the metaphor I use, taken from the psychologist William James's phrase that we have a stream of consciousness. And I basically said when somebody suffers from a traumatic brain injury, it's like that stream of consciousness goes over a waterfall. Same water at the bottom, but fragmented, needs to come together and form a new identity. And I think that's what somebody who goes through a traumatic brain injury needs.
That theory is correct.
Thank you. And the reason I self-published, Kevin, is I had first written it as an academic book, and the academic presses preferred that I take my mother's voice out. I preferred to keep my mother's voice in. Then I rewrote the book basically for a general audience. And to do that, I needed to have an agent. I did get an agent. We worked for about a year and a half trying to get a publisher. And the major publishers, the major houses, while they liked the mother's voice, wanted me to take some of the thinking parts out of it. And I wanted it to be true to who I am. I'm a mother who thinks. Is that a problem? You know? And so, like, where do you find meaning when you have a daughter who's Phi Beta Kappa at one of the best universities in the country, and everybody wants her, and then in a minute you have a daughter who suffers a severe brain injury who keeps getting kicked out of institutions? So I searched for meaning. As a theologian, I searched for meaning in this experience. As a healthcare ethicist, I wanted to highlight what some of the issues are when you're going through this system, because I believe firmly that as a healthcare system in the United States, We're great at acute care. We're great at technology. We're great at taking care of things. We are not so great in chronic care, disability, long-term care, and basically many people who could be helped with much better chronic care and rehabilitation they simply fall through the cracks. And as a society too, we really are not very good at dealing with persons with disability. And that has become the center of my research over the past couple of years.
Okay, the book is available on Amazon.com, right?
Yes, and BarnesandNoble.com.
Good. And I want to thank you for being our guest, and I want to thank you,
Thank
Michelle,
you,
and continue
Kevin.
good luck, and keep going, and keep with that physical exercise.
Well,
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Kevin's Corner TV. My name is Kevin Horton, and we are on the Old Westbury campus of New York Institute of Technology. This episode is a special treat for me because I went to New York Institute of Technology. I majored in journalism, and I was on the school newspaper, the Campus Slate. This week's episode, I'm going to get to interview one of my former professors, Mr. John Hanc. He is a track star, a author, and he works for Newsday. And he is now the campus advisor for the school newspaper. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thank you. Okay, welcome. I'm talking with John Hanc. John, thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure, Kevin.
Now, this is a great honor because you were one of my professors here at NYIT, and we're on NYIT's campus. And we're
Beautiful day.
coming back to meet with you. And you were a big influence in journalism for me. Now let's start off with that part of your career. You're a journalist.
Correct.
You work for the Times.
I write for a long-time contributing writer for Newsday, and I also freelance for the Times and the Smithsonian and Runner's World magazine, a whole bunch.
Excellent, excellent. And what is your main focus of your writing for them?
You know, for most of my career, it's been on health and fitness. But I've also, as you know, as a journalist yourself, Kevin, sometimes you want to become more varied. And so in recent years, I've tried to branch out, writing about other topics that interest me, which include local history. I wrote a book on the history of Jones Beach, for example, and all kinds of other things, cars, education, not-for-profit. Wherever there's a good story, I'm interested.
Right, right. Tell me a little bit about the books.
The first books I wrote I've written about 10 now, amazingly. Sometimes I forget that happened somehow.
Wow.
But some of the first ones were books on running. I co-authored, you probably heard, many of your viewers have heard of the Dummies series of books. I co-authored Running for Dummies, for example. But more recently, I'm trying to do some different kinds of books. I did a memoir on my experience running the 2005 Antarctica Marathon. And that book, called The Coolest Race on Earth, came out 2 years ago. I'm happy to say it won a national award. It didn't sell very well, but it won a national award. And that was a different type of writing. Instead of showing people how to get in shape or how to run your first marathon, which is the kind of stuff I had been writing, this is more sort of narrative, non-fiction, or so-called literary journalism. Not that I'm making any pretensions to be a writer of great literature, but it sort of stretches our writers' muscles. Right. So I've been trying to do more things like that.
So you ran in this
Yeah,
Antarctic thing?
yeah. I went down to Antarctica, and the book is really not just about the marathon. It's about the experience of traveling down there and what it's like, because more and more people are able to do it. It's a big trip, but you can do it now. And a little bit about the history of it and the characters. You can imagine the kind of characters that would run a marathon in Antarctica. And we wrote about them. So it was quite an experience.
Excellent. And how long was that race?
It was 26.2 miles, as all marathons are.
All in one stretch?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just like the New York City Marathon, except not at all like New York City.
Right.
We're running on in mud, on loose rocks, through glaciers. It was a pretty crazy experience.
Wow. Now, what kind of gear are you wearing?
Well, that part of the interesting thing is you would think you'd be wearing some kind of crazy Gore-Tex suit looking like a polar explorer. The truth is that we ran the marathon in February, and that is the summer in the southern hemisphere, as you probably know. So it was the warm time in Antarctica. It was actually colder in New York that day. We ran, it was a low 30s, so it wasn't that cold. But it's such a remote place. It was really like, as I said in the book, and I'm not the only one who's made this observation about Antarctica by any means, it really is like being on another planet. It's about as far from Old Westbury and New York and Long Island as you could get geographically and in every other conceivable way.
Right. Excellent. And tell me about the most recent book that you've come out with.
Yeah, I've got a book that's so different from Antarctica. This is a book I did that's coming out in January. It's a book that I co-authored with two people from Harvard. One of them is one of the country's leading experts on ADHD. He's a psychiatrist and a professor there. And it's a book that is aimed at something that I'm sure you and all of your viewers are aware of, and that is this sort of modern life tendency we have to be very distracted these days. You know, between text messages and Facebooks and just the increasingly complex.
True. I've always felt that adds to ADHD is there's so many different things going on around us.
Well, it's true, or at least the perception that we feel like we have ADHD.
Right.
You're absolutely right. In fact, there's now a name for it, the distraction epidemic. You know, You've heard of the obesity epidemic. Now we have the distraction epidemic. So the idea of this book, which is certainly not mine, I was sort of brought onto the project, was let's try and use some of the latest understanding of how the brain works, or how it doesn't in the case of ADHD, to come up with some ways that can help all of us become better organized. And the book is going to be called Organize Your Mind, Organize Your Life, which is a nice title. And again, that wasn't my title, so I give full credit to the editors for that. But it's coming out in January, and hopefully, I know it helped me a little bit, even get a little bit better focused.
Right. Excellent. So it's sort of a self-help book.
Yes, exactly, a self-help book.
Excellent. Now tell me about, I graduated here in 1991. You started as a professor when?
I was just about then. I think it was like that year or the year before. So now I'm here 20 years, which is hard to believe.
Wow. And what subject are you teaching?
I teach I work out of the communications department. I teach journalism. I am the faculty advisor for the Campus Slate, a paper with a very distinguished pedigree, of which you were once. You're one of its great editors.
Right.
I also I'm the faculty advisor for our student-run advertising and PR agency called the Carlton Group, which has also won a number of awards, and we handle a lot of local not-for-profit organizations. We're doing a big project right now for an organization that many of your viewers here on the North Shore will know, and that is Cohen's Children's Hospital, formerly Schneider's, which is part of LIJ. We're doing a big project with them or I should say my students are doing a big project with them. So, you know, this, and you're kind of one of our great success stories, Kevin, an example of this. NYIT is all about professionally oriented education, and that's what the Slate and the Carlton Group are all about.
So yeah, with the Campus Slate, how is it going, and what's happening, and what's the new format?
Well, we're online. I mean, you know, it took us a while, but we finally got online the last couple of years with a really nice website, and we launched a new monthly kind of glossy print edition. And last spring, we reached out to, again, one of our most distinguished former editors to contribute. So you wrote a piece for us.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was great to come back. It was a piece about 20 years later, coming back to the school and writing to the campus site. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me do that.
Well, we were thrilled that you were able to contribute. I know the current students really enjoyed having a story from an old person.
That's right.
And you came to the launch party we had for the new edition. What was it like for you, meeting all our current editors?
That was great. Definitely brought back a lot of memories. The experience here at NYIT was just amazing, and I still reflect back on those days. And that's kind of what started, my journalism career, was getting on the school newspaper.
And did you find were you surprised at how journalism has transformed here as well as, in your professional life?
Yes, yeah, it has changed a lot, but it's adapted, and it's great things.
It still comes down to hardworking kids.
But I'm interviewing you.
I know, sorry.
You're switching the journalism thing from you to me. Back to you.
Sorry.
Back to you. we are gonna maybe go down to the track. You're gonna show me some techniques, like from the book, on how to
Yeah, well, we
prepare
can.
and
You want to
stretch
go?
and
Yeah,
all
we
that
can. We
stuff.
can go for a jog. I don't know if you. Well, you are dressed.
Yeah,
Well, we can go for
yeah,
a run. Sure,
yeah,
sure.
alright.
Yeah,
Cool.
that sounds good. It's a great day to do it.
All right, we're gonna run down to the track and we'll be back.
All right.
All right, so should we stretch?
No, I don't think we should stretch first. I think we should walk first because that's the ideal way to warm up for running. You know, a lot of people think that the first thing you do is come out and touch your toes, and stretching is very valuable, but it's not the way to warm up. Most exercise physiologists will tell you, and coaches will say the best way to warm up is to do what we're doing, maybe a little faster, is a brisk walk. And if you'll notice, even like guys and gals in the Olympics, what they'll do, they'll start walking briskly, they'll jog slowly, and then they'll stretch. And then they'll run. So this is probably something we want to pick up the pace. This is the way we warm up.
Okay.
And maybe we'll pick up the pace a little bit. And it's a beautiful day, perfect running weather.
Right.
Is, bicyclists go with traffic, runners and walkers should face traffic. So, now if you want, we can start picking up a little bit. You want to take a little jog. Keep your arms compact. There's all kinds of people who can tell you about proper running form. The best thing I ever heard